performers at the Combine and the latest trade rumors next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Rate 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. And it's good to be back. We skipped an episode on Thursday. My son was in the hospital. He's okay now, so we weren't able to get a show off to you guys. But today, we are breaking down the scouting combine, all the rumors flying around. And of course, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Johnny PayPal. PayPal, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, lovely co-host. I think maybe we could do like handsome co-host or, devilishly handsome co-host, something like that next time. But yeah, it's nice. Yeah, your son, he's definitely doing fine. I mean, he's back to just running around, being a crazy kid and just kicking soccer balls, playing sports, doing all that stuff. So that's awesome. But yeah, I had a nice weekend. There was a little, this like, it's called Shamrock Shuffle where where we're from in the Milwaukee, and I was partaking in that, and it was a fun time, shuffle a little bit, had some green beers and kind of took on Milwaukee. So it was a good time.
You seem to be doing well. You seem to be like up and at 'em and not so sluggish. So it seems like you at least paced yourself and drank the proper stuff. So for sure. So so today, what we are going to be breaking down, like we were talking about, is we are going to be breaking down the rumors. There's a million rumors going around with the NFL Combine, and also breaking down our favorites. So make sure to put down in the chat as well, like who some of your favorite people were at the Combine, because there's so many. We're not going to go through everybody because there's a lot. So we are just going to go through the people that stood out to us. But PayPal, I want to throw it over to you because there's a lot of rumors going on. And the biggest rumor was, when will the Bears deal this draft pick? And the latest rumors from Ian Rappaport is that the Bears are really heavily talking with the Texans, with the Colts, with the Panthers, and the Falcons were the fourth team, really to kind of trade down. And he's saying it could be as early as free agency, because they just want to know who their quarterback is going to be going into free agency. PayPal, what is your vibe? Like, who do you hope that they're trading with, and what do you think actually happens?
Yeah. That definitely is two kind of different questions. Cause you hope you can trade for basically with any team. The Texans are definitely an attractive spot because they got they got 2 first-round picks. So some sort of way if we could maybe get those 2, or, get that second-round pick and get, they have that early, second-round pick. So get the 33rd pick. But yeah, the Colts as well, that you could also, I know you really like the idea of like, I mean, I like the idea too of getting like, maybe, I don't know if he's on the trade board, but get like a Darius Leonard or something. I don't know if that's even a possibility, but I mean, I talk about like maybe getting him, and for like the Carolina Panthers, maybe getting Brian Burns or something like that. But I don't know, like with this Falcons talk of like, they just got Desmond Ridder. And that's what I'm kind of confused about, because did they already give up on him? And like, wouldn't you want maybe bring in like a veteran? You don't want to just bring in another young guy. So I don't know why they do that, unless they're really like loving Will Anderson, or like, if we traded down to like the second and then they're like, oh, we want to get, I don't know, Will Anderson for some reason.
I think you bring up Ridder, and I think Ridder towards the end of the season kind of put it together, but it still seemed like he was still a late round pick, right? Like he wasn't immediate. But it will be really interesting to see what they do. And for me, I just want them to get it done. Because all this talk about what's going to happen, Personally, if they can trade with the Texans, I think that that's the best because now the draft starts again at 2. And now you can trade down again. And when we break down the combine, that pick has skyrocketed. Let's just talk. The winner of the draft is the Bears' first pick
Mhm.
because nobody's stock has gone higher than the Bears' first pick because after that, Rappaport was saying people are going crazy. People want to know what the going rate is for this pick. So I really do think it'd be this week. I kind of go iffy. I kind of go back and forth on it, but we will see. And PayPal, you turn on your light. You look beautiful today.
Thank you.
Now you look beautiful. Turn
Yeah,
on
now I'm not handsome. I'm beautiful. I'm pretty.
the
So, definitely look like a TikToker now. So,
so so let's go into this. So obviously we mentioned the big thing is going to be a lot of the trade rumors going around. We also heard a little bit about Jalen Ramsey. We'll see if he actually gets cut. We heard Khalil Mack potentially getting cut. We talked about that
Mhm.
on our preview for who could be a cap casualty, and it looks like he's going to be a cap casualty. And rumor is that he has interest in coming back to the Bears. For those watching and have access to a comment section, would you welcome Khalil Mack back with open arms? I personally would. I don't know what your take is, PayPal.
Yeah, I definitely would. It the thing that always concerns me is like obviously he's not in his prime. Like he's definitely kind of dropped off a little bit, but it's still Khalil Mack. And I think of I mean, there's a lot of young talent we could get in this draft. And having kind of like a veteran that's been on the Bears before and has had huge success in the NFL, just being there and kind of setting that so because we need someone.
For sure.
Robert Quinn was out, and it seemed like once Robert Quinn was out, I mean, he wasn't doing anything productive wise, but it seemed like when he left last year, our defensive line just fell to pieces, and it's crazy. Like he didn't get any sacks or anything. Maybe it was just a leadership thing, having that older veteran guy with knowledge, and he had some words of wisdom he could hype up his men with. But I'm hoping Khalil Mack could do the same with the Bears and actually give some production for us.
I think there is something to be said about leadership. And I always like to tie it to how we work, right? Like us normal people that work normal jobs. If you have a team of a bunch of young people, you need some really young, special, inexperienced people to be leaders on that team. And yeah, you can have
Mhm.
something wonderful, but you need someone that is kind of that next level of leader that's young, and that's very rare to find. So yeah, you might need to bring in some veteran leadership, a good veteran leader, not not Joe Thomas, who was the linebacker where he's a
Yeah.
vet and a good linebacker, but he's not going to be the face of the defense. He's not going to turn people around. You need people like that on this defense. So I really like that. As long as the big thing is, as long as it's for a good price, we'll see what ends up happening. It's going to be a crazy time, but let's go over to the actual combine and let's break down each individual day. Let's start with Thursday, where we saw the defensive linemen and the linebackers take the field. And
Mhm.
PayPal,
It was fun.
we'll go through the big headline next because we have not been able to talk about that. But who is your biggest winner for that day?
I don't want to talk. I'm just gonna say the obvious one just real quick. Nolan Smith. I think everyone knows his name by now.
Yeah.
I mean, he dominated it. I mean, you can talk about what was the most impressive thing. I mean, his crazy 4.4,
Everything.
his 10 split, whatever. Everything was incredibly impressive, just athletic wise.
Coming off an injury, like everything.
Yeah.
He's a little light for the big thing about Smith though is he's a little light for a defensive end.
Mhm.
So from the Bears perspective, but yeah, kudos to
But
him.
yeah, he could maybe even add some weight and then still have 4.5 speed if he added 20 pounds. But someone that I kind of was like people were kind of talking about how he looks like Hercules and stuff. Luke Van Ness, he's someone that kind of
Hmm.
dominated too for me. He was fast, he was super strong, and people just talked about how it kind of reminds me of how a little bit how Dwan Jones, how it's like you can tell like this guy looks bigger than everyone else on the in the combine, and not that drastic. Like Dwan Jones just absolutely like he eats everyone for breakfast, but like Luke Van Ness he's just very built. He was fast, he was athletic, and very quick off the get go. So he was someone he kind of is in my thoughts now of like if we kind of trade farther back and not in that Will Anderson range, maybe get like a Luke Van Ness.
That's a good person, and also, yeah, big hockey player. He's from Barrington, Illinois, as well, so he's a local kid, so to speak. That would be
Mhm.
very interesting. Yeah, like sophomore, redshirt sophomore, looked looked good out there on the combine. Someone who I'm going to bring up, and this is another. This might be similar to like Nolan Smith, but let me just pull up his name, and if I actually have his pronunciation right, I have to. I think you might know who this is.
I do.
Adetomiwe Adebare.
Mhm.
Out of Northwestern, weighs in at 6'2", 282, and his athleticism off the charts. 4'9" at 282.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. A 161 10-yard split, 37.5 vertical jump, 10.5 broad, 27 bench reps. So all the numbers, he looked great, right? And then you
Mhm.
actually watch him do the on-field drills, and he looked phenomenal. And the thing that people kept reminding everyone is this guy is a defensive tackle. And this guy wants to be a three technique. That's what we saw at the Senior Bowl. That's where a lot of people were saying this guy was a very good three technique. On the edge, not so great. Three technique seems to be his spot. Bears are looking at a three technique. Yet again, this is a winner of the combine. I went back and watched his tape. Not a lover of the tape, but a lover of the athlete.
Mhm.
He looked fluid. He looked athletic with all the drills. Domination by Adebare. So absolutely great. But PayPal, another person, like I said, he was a very easy one to kind of cherry pick from. I am one guy that really blew me away was Byron Young out of Tennessee. He
Really?
was someone
Yeah.
that some people love him, some people aren't big fans of him. And let me just pull up some of his numbers. But Byron Young, edge out of Tennessee, and he 250, 6'2, 443 40-yard dash, 162, 10-yard split, 38-inch vertical jump, 11 broad, 22 reps. But just overall, yet again, fluid in all the drills. The numbers are one thing, numbers were really good, but him in the drills looked really good. And I put back on his tape a very quick speed rusher on that outside. So I saw some people saying his ideal spot, his ideal position is kind of in that speed rush position in a 4-3 defense where he can kind of just pin his ears back, fly around the edge, very fast, very athletic. Thought he looked very good at defensive end.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that, and someone I think we kinda all know, like, he is really good. Will Anderson, it was just something you just had to kinda watch. He is one of those guys, it's like, he looks fluid, like, something I really enjoy watching, like, just in the 40 is not how fast you run it, how much, like, power do you have? Or, like, how much, like, kinda, like, stability they have when they're running? Because some of these guys, they kinda it looks like if they got touched a little bit, they would just fall, you know what I mean? Like, but, like, Will Anderson, he runs, like, heavy and with, like, power, so it's like he could while he's running with that quick burst of he had a 4.6, which not amazing, but he's 253, so, like, pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Um,
can I just say something? Because this ground my gears going on Twitter, and I'm finally back on Twitter. Ever since my baby was born, I was never on Twitter. Now I'm like, I should probably be back on social media. Started getting back, and I'm like, I realized why I wasn't on social media because
yeah.
there's people that are like, Will Anderson is bad. And it's like, this is the combine. This is the underwear Olympics. They're not actually playing football. And you look at Will Anderson's comps, right? The
Yeah.
biggest fear was his size. He goes in and weighs at 253, which is very good. And
Mhm.
now he came in and people were comping him to Von Miller at 253. He's now comped to DeMarcus Ware. His size is DeMarcus Ware, Khalil Mack, and Khalil Mack was always the better comp. He's a power guy. He's a very, like you said, his play strength is crazy, and his measurables were pretty much identical to Khalil Mack, and a 161 for 10-yard split
Yeah.
is in that elite territory no matter what. So he has that get off, he has that strength, he has everything that you need. And that's where I think a lot of people weren't giving him the proper credit, because what he just showed is he's athletic enough to be in the NFL. Is he Nolan Smith where he's going to blow you away? No, but he's going to blow you away with his play on the field. And that's what's most important out there. But PayPal, we can still finish off our list, but I do want to bring up the other guy on the other side, because to me, Will Anderson seems like the number one guy that's on the Bears boards right now with everything that went on with
Mhm.
Jalen Carter. Also, I will say this too. People and scouts were blown away by Will Anderson's personality. And they were just saying, like, he just has a good head on his shoulders. He's very humble. He passed the interview portion, which is huge at the scouting combine. He's the type of person that the Bears would want to lead if they aren't able to trade. If
Yeah.
they're able to get him, awesome. On the flip side, Jalen Carter.
He
Jalen
failed.
Carter was not able to be out there. And just a little bit of color on Jalen Carter's situation, too. Jalen Carter did not kill anybody. Jalen Carter was in the drag race. He was in racing his friend. He was in a different car. And then his friend's car, unfortunately, as they were driving down and racing each other, hit a curb and unfortunately crashed, and some people passed away. Unfortunate situation. Obviously went back to Athens and got arrested, paid his bail or whatever it was, and then came back out and answered some interview questions. What's your feeling on Carter? Like, with the whole situation, it's a weird situation because he's like, didn't do anything. I hate talking about it because people died. It's just, he
Yeah.
didn't do anything like egregious. He wasn't Henry Ruggs, right?
Yeah. It's not like, he was just driving super fast, like in just a city. Yeah. Like Henry
And
Ruggs,
clipped
where,
him. Yeah. And like was
and
drunk.
just was like, being a complete idiot. I mean, it
It was
seems
dumb.
it's not the smartest thing to do, but he was at least kind of having some fun, and like that just gives that kind of question of like on the field, off the field issues. And when you're risking a pick like the second round or the second pick of the draft, you're kind of like someone with the like, even the most little questions in someone. It's like, do I want to risk a pick like that on someone who's really talented, but we just didn't get to see anything, and it just kind of gets that little worry in you. And that's where it's like, now Will Anderson is definitely kind of, that guy that, we're not debating between anyone anymore. It's Will Anderson. And then it's like,
And trade down.
yeah, and now it's like, I don't know where Jalen Carter will be ranked now, and how bad these guys will kind of rank. I mean, the Cowboys, it seems like a perfect place with the Cowboys, if we talk about off the field issues. But he's still talented. So
I think
we'll
that's
see.
the biggest. It sounds so bad. Like, it's not like Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon freaking punched a woman, and Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill punted a girl's face. Like those are serious off the field issues. It seems like what he did was stupid and idiotic, and obviously cost people lives. But it wasn't like, yeah. And I
It
hate
wasn't
talking
directly to
about,
him.
yeah. But I think overall with Jalen Carter, yeah, I think he's off the Bears board from a 1, 2, and 3 because of the aesthetic, right? Like, that's you. He already had questions on, does he give it every single play? Will Anderson does that. And
Mhm.
do they get him later on? I think like if he's later, that's a debate for another time. But it will be interesting. It really does seem like Will Anderson, and it seems like now that you have that, it shakes up the draft, because it was always you can go to the Colts and you get Carter or Anderson. But now it's like, is that is that aesthetic good for your team? And that's a
Yeah.
question that loose polls, they're going to be the ones that have to answer for that, and have to be like, okay, we think that this overwrites any questions that we might get, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely think, like, Jalen Carter, we weren't such a young team that are trying to like establish a culture and a winning culture, and bringing this guy that has this kind of bad sense of culture, I guess, quote unquote, and bringing him in, like it just doesn't seem like the right move. But
Yeah. Well,
you
we'll
know,
see. And yeah, he's still tremendously talented, but let's
yeah.
just kind of finish off some of the day ones. I will just kind of bring up, I thought Brian Brzee played very well. I thought he was a good athlete. And Zach Pickens, someone that the Bears interviewed a lot. Zach Pickens out of South Carolina interviewed a lot, played very well, looked very athletic. Need to put on his tape and really kind of grind that to see what type of a player he is. But my last like kind of person I'm going to highlight, PayPal, then we'll kind of finish up with yours, Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell.
Mhm.
With he's the thumbnail for today's show on YouTube. Jack Campbell to me just keeps showing what type of a player he is. Goes in and is, I think he was like 6'4". I didn't update my actual graphic on him. But Jack Campbell was 6'4", or no, never mind, 6'5", 249. So a little bit bigger than we originally thought. His 40-yard dash and 10-yard split weren't great. 4.65. 159 is good for a 10-yard split. But vertical jump was one of the number one things at 37.5. Broad jump, 10.8. Three cone was by far the best at his position at 6.74. Next closest was 7 seconds. So phenomenal short area quickness, and was one of the top performers at the 20-yard shuttle. He really silenced a lot of haters with his quickness and his short
Mhm.
area burst. There's still the question on the long speed, but overall, very fluid. Just
Well,
checks every freaking box.
yeah, I and that's the thing that if he doesn't like, I don't know, I think he's probably one of the best linebackers, honestly, and maybe I'm crazy or something, but you look at a lot of these linebackers, and it's like, for me, I'm like, they're kinda undersized, like, they'll, like, be, like, under 230 pounds, and maybe I'm just still salty after, the whole, um what's his name? More Nicholas Morrow, kinda just how
Yeah.
he just doesn't defend in the run, you know? Like, I'm kinda sick of it, and after seeing, like, Jack Sanborn stepping in and seeing, he's a bigger guy, he's not that fast guy, but he's still quick off the ball, and he can get to the guy. I just love having another guy like that in Jack Campbell, where he can stuff the run, and sure, he's not gonna be able to just, like, lock down, I don't know, a wide receiver or something, or like a tight end that like a Travis Kelsey or something, but he's still quick. He can get down the sideline and get tackles. So, Sanborn Campbell, if we got that, that would be
Whew.
a dream.
You got Sandborn that could blow it up. You got Campbell. And here's the funny thing, too. When you look at the linebackers, there's like crazy athletes at the linebacker position, right? Like, and everybody wants to point to Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson, Deion Henley. And they're like, yeah, they're really good at like rushing and pass rushing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like, but
like
what about like they cover? They need to cover in this system. They need to do stuff like that. And yeah, it baffles me that he's still not seen as the top linebacker when he checks like everything off that you
yep.
want him to do. And they're nervous about his patience, but we keep saying patience is really good in this Eberflus system. It's what they want the linebackers to do. It's just so perfect. But PayPal, who else do you got? Uh,
Yeah, I mean, the linebacker group, I know we were talking kind of pre-show of how just disappointed, like, Andre Carter, like, not someone that we were high on, but he was someone that we just, like, wanted to show and really be like, "Wow, crazy." Um, Same with Will McDonald. No, nothing to really show there. Um, but yeah, Brett, I'm not gonna lie. I think I was fantasizing too much about Jack Campbell, because when I was watching the linebackers,
no, keep it going. Keep it going. Keep
I was
fantasizing.
seriously just watching him. Like I was doing, hopefully no coworkers in this podcast, but I was watching, while I was working, and I feel like I would only look up when I would see Campbell, because he has that thing I was talking about where he runs with like power rather than just like quickness. And I love that. And I don't know, like Overshown was kind of someone too I liked, but he just looks a little bit light in the
Yeah.
safety.
Fair enough. Yeah, at the linebacker, I get that. Yeah, and he didn't run as well as you would expect or as you want from the
Mhm.
lightweight. But also, I will just kind of call out a couple people that we mentioned before. Kalijah Cansey. The big question was his size coming in, and
Mhm.
measures in a little over 6 foot. Now he doesn't. When you look at him compared to Donald coming out, and he also ran phenomenal 40 time, right? But you look at Donald, Donald was definitely a little bit more yoked, a little bit more like chiseled, I felt. But Cansey,
Mhm.
another very good player out there, really look good, really look quick. And yeah, like everybody was saying this. He's the biggest comp is Aaron Donald. It's such an easy thing. And Keanu
Mhm.
Benton had a pretty good combine as well, I felt. Nothing that blows you away, but I think something that's different is when you watch the defensive linemen, you can tell who's going in the first, second, and third because they're not fat. Like you
Yeah.
see them, they're bigger in the chest. Even like some of the nose tackles, like the nose tackles, their chest is as big as their gut. But all like the late round people, their guts bigger than their chest. And Keanu Benton just looked good. I really liked him out there. I thought that he
Mhm.
was really good. So um
That's how I felt. He kinda still stayed the same for me, like, where, yeah, he's not the super fast guy, but he still has a little bit of athleticism. Honestly, the one person I was disappointed though was I was big fan of him just coming in, was Saika Ika.
yeah,
Like, I was very shocked that he was very slow. I mean, like,
he's
'cause it was
big.
ki
Yeah.
he's big. Okay, he is big. He's, 358. I think I was really, like, imagining this guy's gonna be not like sub 5 speed, but he was a he had like a 5'3"
Yeah,
or
5'3",
something.
5'39", yeah.
Yeah, 5'39", and that was just a little bit too slow for me where it kinda scares me almost with, like, the pass rushing. It seems like he's only good for his size where he's gonna stuff the run and he's gonna take on 2 blockers, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what kinda scares me now. Um, but he was still a good pass rusher, I mean, in college, but that's the one thing that I was a little disappointed
Yeah, I'm glad you said that and not me. That's your
in.
boy,
Yeah.
and I saw him, I was like, the dude, like, he's built like Snacks Harrison. That's his kind of comp when you see some of his athletic testing. And Snacks was really good at stuff in the run, something that Eco was more of like a still could stuff the run, but yeah, his calling card was really that pass rush and that
Mhm,
quickness. And yeah, it didn't necessarily showcase it too much. Doesn't mean he's trash, just something that we would have liked to see on film.
mhm.
But PayPal,
Yeah,
let's go over to Saturday.
let's do it.
Saturday, I think that Saturday was one of the most actually, never mind, Friday. I don't know why. I had Saturday up in my notes before Friday. I need Rebecca Black's song playing in my head so I understand the days of the week better.
Saturday's fun, though. Saturday was a fun
Saturday is
day.
fun. That's why I want to go to it. But we'll fly through some of the defensive backs and special teams on Friday. My biggest winner, actually, no, I'll let you say it because you said it to me. Your biggest winner. Who was your favorite person out there?
My favorite, was Gonzalez. I fucking Gonzalez was insane, Brad. If I'm blanking on his first name, but,
Christian, yeah.
Gonzalez, yeah, Gonzalez was an absolute beast.
Whew,
He
yeah.
looked so, like, not gonna lie, people that listened to this podcast before, I was so anti, like, don't draft a corner. There's no point in drafting a corner. There's good corners in the free agency that we can just pick up. But he's one guy where I had a mock draft and he somehow fell to like 14 or like 15 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, shoot, he's there. So like I'm gonna pick him up. Because he looked so fluid.
I
Like you
feel
could
you.
tell he looked like the number one like corner out of this draft. Like, you talk about that lanky guy. Like I just don't he looked like he could get shoved around, but Gonzalez looked sturdy, fast, very confident, and he won the that day for me.
Yeah, I agree, and he's going to be my biggest riser too. Like, even though that he's already super high up, yeah. Like going into the day, it's like anytime that I would see a Bears mock draft, or I would do a mock draft, and I had the Bears selecting a corner, I go, well, it's better than Kindle Vildor, and right, like, but now, yeah, you see him. He's a good zone corner, and the athletic, like you said, he just
He
looked
looked
better and
clean. He looked
smoother
clean.
than
Yeah.
everyone out there. Everything he did was when you have someone that just looks that clean, like you just and he puts it on tape, right? It's not just like, okay, you look good in the underwear Olympics. He looks good on tape, 4.38 just looked good. 41.5-inch vert and 6'1, 197. He's got that size that the Bears like. So yeah, if and hopefully when the Bears trade down, I would not be mad. I would not be mad at all if
Mhm.
they went this route, um, because he looked good. And we'll go through someone else that I think we both want them to get over Christian
Ooh.
Gonzalez if he's out there and available. But the only other person that I'll kind of say, Deontay Banks, I haven't gotten around to watching some of his film out of Maryland,
Mhm.
and he's someone that really shined out to me because I know PFF really likes Deontay Banks. That the top corners are kind of all over the place, but yeah, 4.35, 149, 10-yard split, 42-inch vert, 11.4 or 11 feet 4 inches in the broad, 6 foot 197. Looked very fluid in all of his drills.
Mhm.
Very good athlete out there. I really liked him, but that's really like I did not have a lot of people that really jumped out. But do you have any?
Yeah, yeah, Deontay Banks was, yeah, the one of those where I really like the drill that, the one now they do for the corners, they only did for receivers. I think tight ends
Oh
they
yeah,
did.
the
The
gauntlet.
one
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
love
gauntlet where
that.
they
That
they
was
go
awesome.
back and, like, catch it, and that was something, honestly, that helped just show, like, the fluidness of everyone, and that's where, yeah, Deontay Banks and Gonzalez just completely won it for me. But
Yeah.
couple guys, I mean, Cameron Mitchell, he's out of Northwestern. I don't know if you watched him.
Oh yeah.
He was one of those guys that kinda just stood out to me as kinda he had kind of the speed. He seemed I don't know how to describe it. He seemed kind of like the alpha in the group almost. Like, he was very confident. He was standing with his chest out, and he was one of those guys too that just looks very fluid in those drills, and I think it just nickel corner, I'm like, "We could get a nickel corner if Gordon wants to stay on the outside," and yeah, and I guess another guy that really stand out, I mean, maybe just because he's, you know, a little different, but Riley Moss was someone that kinda stood out to me.
Oh.
Um,
A
but
little different.
just a little different. He's got long hair. But Riley Moss, he looked really good. I mean, he was a track, I don't know if a star, but he was a big track guy when he was in college as well and in high school. And you could tell in his 40, he had impeccable form in his 40, but
He
he
was
was
really good.
fast. He had he was one of those guys I kinda noticed when he had, like, that ball hawk ability of, like, he really high points the ball and, like, cradles it right away. Like, he knows how to get a pick six, he knows how to
He did look
ball hawk
good.
and get an interception. So, that was someone I was really surprised because people might say he's slow or something. But he was fast, he was quick, he was he was all over the place. So,
For those
um
that don't know, Riley Moss is white. He's the only like
yeah,
white corner that honestly, like I
he was
told him,
balling.
yeah, I told my wife, I was like, legit. I'm like, I don't mean to bring up race with this. I'm like, name a white corner you've seen in
Yeah,
the
you
past
don't.
decade. And that's where it was like, it's so unique, but he actually did look really good, formed very well. And
Mhm.
when you talked about slots, it reminded me of someone else that I really liked, Travius Hodges Tomlinson out of
Yes.
TCU.
Yes.
I thought he looked really good. He only measured in at 5'8". A lot of people are saying he could be that outside guy. But yeah, when you see the height, you go, you got to be a slot. You got to play in the slot. He showed quickness, showed speed, and I've seen his tape. The dude is a ball hawk, and you
Mhm.
see how he's able to play. He goes after the ball like crazy. And to
Mhm.
me, I really liked what I saw out of him. I thought that he looked really good. And yeah, he's short, but yeah, you toss him at the nickel. Why not take a shot at him or like with your fourth round pick, right?
Yeah.
Why not if you're trading down and you're getting some third round draft capital? Why not go after someone like that that can be a starting slot for you and just
Mhm.
looked different
He
out
did.
there.
And
But anyone else you got?
yeah, I got 2 more. This was
Sheesh.
this was
Yeah, turn it up
surprising.
the video for
Yeah,
this
turn
one.
off my
You
camera.
gotta cover
Jesus,
up. You gotta cover up.
gosh. Jeez Louise. Hey, well, yeah, I'm gonna get that cam going again. There we go. Um, but I didn't take out my cheat sheet. No, but no, yeah, Clark Phillips is another guy that just a little quick. He was a nickel corner out of
Yeah,
Utah. He kind of
he
just
looked
stood
good.
out to me. Not really words I can describe. He just seemed very confident, just fluid out there. Guy to just watch out, and like he's a little bit later in the draft where we could maybe just kind of see him out there. But and then Kylie Ringo is someone too. He kind of is known as like the cover two, like zone corner. And I mean, heck, we run a lot of cover two, and he is perfect in that scheme. So he's not the fastest guy, but for those zone coverages and being kind of a physical corner, he's perfect.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Keely Ringo was someone that I kind of had. I didn't love it, but yeah, 6'2", 207, weighed in well. And I actually want to kind of call attention to some people that I thought kind of fell because Keely Ringo was seen as one of the top corners, and he kind of showed that athleticism. Because when more people saw his athleticism, it's like, all right, he rises up, but when you see how he covers, he goes down. There's
Mhm.
other corners that were seen as some of the top ones that really should their fall, their avalanche down the boards really makes sense. And that's Jalen Jones out of Texas A&M and Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami. I thought both
Yeah.
of those guys. I remember making a joke that the Bears are going to draft a Jalen Jones and they're going to have two, and it's going to be good. Jalen Jones just messed up. I felt bad for the guy. He did not look to me. He didn't look that great. And Tyreek Stevenson, I thought it's one of those when you look closely at the form and everything, it just didn't look like NFL form to me. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to see something out of those guys, and I really was just thoroughly disappointed, right? And it didn't look like NFL players really. Jalen Jones has some of that athleticism, but he made a lot of mistakes out there. Hopefully, it was just nerves, and he has a good career. But yeah, those guys just kind of disappointed. Do you have any
Yeah.
safeties? Like,
No,
safeties were
yeah.
so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, safeties were it's just I don't think there was even really like a one if we were even in the market where I really was like, "Wow, we should like they should get that guy," you know? I mean, Brian Branch was kinda like the number 1 guy basically, but he didn't even really stand out, like, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't he didn't seem like a number 1 pick, he just kinda seemed good, but
Yeah.
nothing crazy. Maybe his film is kinda what really stands out as production, but the
Yeah.
combine wasn't really his showing.
Yeah, he has phenomenal film, but I think about like Minka. I think about oh god, the safety out of LSU, Jamal Adams. Right? All
Yeah.
of them had good combines. They really kind of showcased their abilities. But yeah, yeah, not the best. Jamie Robinson was someone I jotted down. Yeah, Branch, I thought just looked he looked fluid. Like he was one of those
Mhm.
guys, looked fluid, didn't just kind of go nuts with athletic testing. But as Renewable said, athletes galore, polls gotta find the football players. But PayPal, if you're looking good for good athletes, good football players, got to get started with Transparent Labs. Transparent Labs, the leader in the best workout supplements. They're called Transparent Labs for a reason because they put what they have on the packaging. They'll actually tell you what you're putting in your body. That's something very, very important. I use it all the time. I'm not the biggest, but I'm getting there. Brand better 40 times than some people out there. So But yeah, Transparent Labs, best out there. Use the link down in the description. Also, if you're a gambler, BetUS link down there. Use promo code unbearable. Let's keep the show moving with
Let's
the
do it.
best. The best. The quarterback, wide receiver, tight end group on Saturday. Like we talked about before, Bryce Young, Will Levis, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, they balled out. They
Mm.
balled out. Bryce Young didn't even throw, and he balled out because he was over 200 pounds. Now you look at him. There's a picture going around of him and Kyler Murray side by side. Kyler's 200 and looks thick, and Bryce Young looks very frail. And a
Oh.
big is, but still, he weighed in over 200 pounds. That's really good news for us Bears fans because that helps silence some critics. Didn't throw, though, Will Levis. We watched some of the combine with our dad, and he loved Will Levis. I really wasn't watching a lot of the quarterbacks. I was focused on the wide receivers. He loved Papa Barron loved what he saw with Will Levis and CJ Stroud, a lot of people are saying he threw the best out of the bunch, and Anthony Richardson. We all saw the headlines. We all saw all the craziness out there. This number one pick is going through the roof with the stock. I
Yeah.
love this. I love this.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, people are even throwing out Anthony Richardson up there. Quarterbacks are looking like actual because everyone was saying this is probably one of the most overrated draft classes of
Yeah.
if CJ Stroud was in, you know, last year's or 2 years ago, like draft class, like they would be like fourth round quarterbacks or like stuff like that. And it's like, no, like these guys are good. Yeah, sure. They might have their undersized or whatever, but I mean, they were kind of balling out. I was hoping to see a little more about Bryce Young, but hey, we'll see on his pro day more, and hopefully that increases the draft stock even more.
Yeah, and here I took a picture of it. I believe it was the 22nd this month that they will be throwing. And
Okay.
like for it. So yeah, so on the 22nd, it's Ohio State's pro day, 23rd is Alabama's, March 24th is Kentucky's, and March 30th is Florida. And the big key date is March 23rd, is that's when you're going to see Bryce Young throw. And to me, that's when people will say, that's what I saw on tape. That's who I want. Ryan Poles, I'll trade. And hopefully by
Yeah.
that, we have the second pick in the draft, and someone says, I got to trade up to 2. Here's another slew of draft picks. Go create a franchise. Go create a dynasty with these picks, because that's what we're looking out for. But yeah, I can't help but think too, Justin Fields. How insane would people be going for if Justin Fields was in this combine, or
Oh
like
my
actually
gosh.
had a combine? Because they're like, no quarterbacks ran this fast. Justin Fields did that at his 40 time. Child, please. Like, come on. Like he was,
Child, please.
yeah, he was looking so good at his combine. And but let's enough quarterback talk. We have a quarterback. Let's go to the receivers. PayPal.
I want to kind of touch it a little bit on the quarterbacks just because
Nine. No,
I'm in a
oh yeah, you did. You did. You did
yeah,
scout him out. Yep.
I'm a true believer, Brad, in like obviously we're not gonna get, the first round quarterback, second round, but I'm thinking about because I think the word's been going around like, do we get Marcus Mariota? I mean, I like Marcus Mariota. I think he's a great person. Like he'd be a good veteran if we talk about veteran being in the room. He's a runner too, so he kind of fits the scheme a little bit better. I like it. But I think now that Justin Fields is establishing himself and he's kind of already that kind of I don't want to say star yet, but he's already very good. He doesn't need that veteran in the locker room. So might as well get a younger guy. And Willie Cunningham was kind of that fun. I think that fun guy we kind of draft. He's ranked at like 300. We can get him
Yeah.
really, really far back. Fast. He's more of a runner. Would fit the scheme. Definitely a project guy, but someone that could sit behind Justin Fields. I mean, I think of just like maybe like he could kind of earn his stock, and if he does play, like if Justin Fields does get injured and he does play a game and he shows up, hey, maybe that's a potential guy we could trade and get more, more talent from. So I like kind of getting, yeah, like him or like a Max Duggan would be kind of if we want to
Yeah,
reach even higher, or even a Dorian Thompson Robinson. I mean, his
yeah.
measurables were insane. He was super fast, super tall, um, just from a prototypical standpoint. So, just kind of it'd be fun to get a draft like later, and I always like drafting later in the in the draft for a quarterback like that. So
And do what the Patriots do. Draft
yeah.
quarterback. The Packers do that, right? You draft quarterbacks to your point. If they show out or someone likes them, you can trade them. There's a lot of running quarterbacks. I like Duggan. Like we
Hmm.
mentioned it a little bit before when we were looking at it. Duggan has the straight line speed. He was the second fastest quarterback out there. It was like
Hmm.
4.5 or like 4.52 is what he ran or so. Like he was
Hmm.
fast. He's got the speed, but he doesn't forcefully run it just like with Justin Fields. Fields had to run it because that's
Yeah.
what the offense was, but they would rather like to throw it first. But PayPal,
Yeah.
I like it. Let's go over to some of these receivers. We saw wide receivers, we saw tight ends. Who's the number one that you saw? Like out of all these guys?
Hey, I still love Jackson Smith and I
Preach. Preach.
he like okay, he didn't run his 40. Maybe he'll get I kind of like I understand why he did that, but also it kind of scares me of like maybe he still doesn't have that top end speed and he's really scared. Like, was he gonna run like a 4.6 or something not the best? Um, but yeah, he looked absolutely. I mean, we were talking about smooth. Like he looked so smooth. His route running, his catching, like high ball on the high catching the ball and everything. Wow, he is a very crisp receiver, and we see why he's number one talent. And just I bet Justin Fields is going absolutely nuts for him, which you know, I hope we can get him in the draft.
So Jackson Smith and Jigba, number one in the 3-cone drill at 6.57. Next closest was 6.85.
Whew.
So almost a point 0.3 differential. And then also you leader in the 20-yard shuttle, 3.93. Next closest 4.12. So almost a point 0.2 second differential as well. That's nuts. And I think that's the big thing is we know that he doesn't have the long speed. He didn't want to showcase that he didn't have that. And he also said he didn't want to pull a hammy because that's what you do if you try running super, super fast. But yeah, like he blew me away when you watched him just run routes. Everything was easy, everything was effortless, everything was simple. He is a quarterback's best friend, and he is friends with our quarterback. Like after seeing that, it's like, all right, how can we get him? And to me,
Yeah.
he just looked like the best wide receiver out there. You look clean. He looks just made things easy. He showed that he's still that guy that went for over 1,000 passing yards and almost had 2,000 or 200 receiving yards a game, not last year, but 2 years before that. So he looked good. I thought Zay Flowers looked good. But someone I'm going to just kind of shed some light on is Andre Iosivas. Probably saying that wrong. Out of Princeton. I know
Hmm.
I forgot who it was. One of our watchers out there on YouTube called him out, and he looked good out of Princeton. Very good athlete. And as I was reading off the shuttle, he was second. He was second place. He's 6'3, 205. Very good athlete, 4.43 40-yard dash, 39-inch vert. And like I said, his agility score is very good. Look good out there as well. Yeah, just someone
Hmm.
that from an athletic perspective looked the part. But anybody else, like from wide receivers, we love Jackson Smith and Jigba. Anyone else?
Yeah, yeah. Zay Flowers. I like Jordan Addison a bit. He's someone that's gonna be probably a little earlier than Jackson Smith, but he looked good. I mean, he looks like kind of the prototypical like wide receiver nowadays, where it's like kind of that Justin Jefferson, where it's like he's kind of lanky, but he still has muscle mass. Like he's got the you know
Yeah.
good route runner and everything. Good catch radius too, but still love Jackson Smith. Um, Nathaniel Dell, I I I I like, but that's someone I don't think I would be completely happy with drafting just because I'm kinda on the end of, like, I want a little bit bigger of a receiver, like someone 6 foot or taller. Maybe I'm just, stereotyping or hating against short people.
Yeah.
Um, but
Disrespecting these short kings out here,
yeah, the
PayPal.
short kings out here and
Jeez.
stuff. He still looked like
He was quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's very quick, and that was something that he seems like he'd be a good, like, wide receiver 2 or 3, and that's the thing. We need, like, a 1. Um, and Jalen Hyatt, just something real quick too, like, I was hoping to see, like, speed. Still, he was fast, like, he had a 4.4, but for someone that was coming to the draft and being like, "Yeah, I'm, like, super fast," like, that was what he's known for. Only getting a 4.4 for me was kind of disappointing. Maybe I just was but, like, I was hoping more for, like, a 4.3
Yeah,
at
I
least.
agree there, and that's Tyler Scott was kinda disappointing for me as well, like, he was the guy that I called out from
Yeah.
Cincinnati, and he ran a better 40 time, but yeah, like, he did not fly the way that I expected him to, and Jalen Hyatt, yeah, you saw the speed, but yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't run a good 40, and I do wanna kinda call this out too, Renewable called this out. He said, "So Jackson Smith and Jigba, hammy still ain't good." That's a big red flag. Like
Yeah.
that is very true, and that's where I'm always curious about the medical staff. Is this because so many people had hammy injuries that just magically came up so they couldn't run the 40? Is this actually that right? Like, is this actually
Yeah.
the hammy's still there, or was he making an excuse so they didn't have to run? But also he
I think
likes
it's more the
Barry
ex
at wide
more
receiver.
the more the excuse, honestly, and I really
That's what I'm
think
hoping
it's just
for.
kinda yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's all I heard for receivers.
yeah, the only other people I'm gonna kinda call out, I thought Charlie Jones was a surprise out of Purdue, ran very, very fluid, looked good out there. Trey Palmer out of Nebraska, he had the number 140 time, but besides that, still looked like a very good receiver. And Jaden Reed out of Michigan State, a lot of hype around him. I thought he looked fluid, I thought he looked fast, I thought he looked watching him, it's not like he's gonna be a number 1. Watching him, you're just like, "This guy's gonna be in the league." This guy's
Yeah.
gonna be a player, and that's huge if you're picking him up in the 4th, right? If he's an NFL player, you'll take that out of your 4th round draft picks. I also thought Rashee Rice ran a decent 40. It was still like 4.52, but
Mhm.
someone who has a lot of questions on his speed, if he was running in the 4.6s, you'd start to see a lot more question marks about that. I thought that was good, but man, we got to talk about tight ends. PayPal, I know you said tight ends were a little difficult for you.
Yep.
Sam Laporta, somebody that I was bringing up beforehand, wide receiver. He truly is he's a wide receiver that plays tight end. His size wasn't great, right? But still, like he was what 6'4", around 240. Let me just pull up the official measurements, which sounds big, but for tight ends nowadays, that isn't huge. Yes. Or you 6'3", 245. So weight wise, okay. Height a little short, which is outrageous for tight ends, but 4.59 40-yard dash and just looked really good. And that's where you knew that he was going to be looking good because he's more of a wide receiver, lined up wide a lot, and it looked good. The one thing that was a little nerve wracking, yet again, this is just practice essentially, but his biggest downside is his catch point. He doesn't catch a lot of
Mm.
things away from his body, and he went for 2 catches at the very end that were over his head. They're in his hands, and he drops both.
Ooh.
It's just not a good look. It's
Yeah.
just not a good look when that's your biggest,
That is. Yeah,
yeah,
especially I mean, I sorry to interrupt, but yeah, like, I think of, like, what people use tight ends for nowadays. It's like you want that big catch radius, and you're trying to find someone that's gonna, you know, catch it over like a safety or catch it over like a shorter defender and use their height to their advantage. But if you're
yeah,
talking about someone that's bigger, but they're gonna have like the same catch radius as like you know, a 4'8" guy that that can catch over his head, that's basically what you're telling me.
yeah, and Smith and Jigba doesn't really jump a lot, right? And if we had Smith and Jigba on the team, like, he still makes some beautiful catches, but he's more, like, to the ground. And yeah,
Yep.
Sam Laporta, not a huge catch point. It's really got be thrown on target, which if you're kind of a glorified bigger wide receiver, he can still block. That's a little like mean to say. Like he's still a tight end, but his plus card, his trump card out there is really his receiving. Also, we have a question from Adam Dobbs. Did JSN run and everything else? Yes, he did. He did
Yeah.
run. He did the vert, he did the broad jump, he did the 3-cone, 20-yard shuttle. Only thing he did not partake in was the 40 and bench press of all things.
And a big reason, again, why it seems like more of an excuse for the hamstring, rather than it's actually a problem. Because if it really was a problem, he probably wouldn't be doing all that stuff, where you're doing more hard stopping when hamstring, it's more for stopping, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
And so just finishing out the tight ends, though, I thought Michael Mayer was decent out there. The tight end out of Notre Dame. He had a good showing. It wasn't incredible. That's the only thing. So I thought he looked good in the drills, but running a 4.7 in the 40 isn't great.
yeah.
But you want that a little bit faster just because speed kills, especially at the tight end position. But I will just kind of bring it to two people because someone who kind of disappointed for me and someone who really impressed, Darnell Washington impressed. The tight end out
Mhm.
of Georgia. He's the guy that went viral for his one-hand grab at the very end. And yeah, literally right on cue, sophisticated thought the man child from Georgia. Yeah, he's not going to make it out of the second round. After that performance, the guy can block. They said it in his bio. They said the 6 offensive lineman for Georgia. Guy can block, and he showed, hey, I can also catch. I just play for Georgia, and we have a lot of ballers out there. And Darnell Washington looked really good. 6'7, 264, 4.64 40-yard dash, and 157 in the 10-yard split. 31-inch vert, but hey, when you're that huge, that doesn't really matter all that much. And 21 reps in the bench, crazy good athlete. And the person that he made look bad was Musgrave. And we talked
Mm.
about Musgrave beforehand, Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. He did not play like at all 2 games last year. Yeah, he ran a good 40 time. He goes in, weighs 6'6, 253. So they're like, here's the size. Runs a 40-yard dash at 4.61. Very good 40. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. But the thing that really doesn't look good for him, your question is you did not play and you come out and you don't partake. I don't know if it was an injury, a legit injury, a fake injury, whatever it was. It just doesn't look good when you have a lot of these good tight ends and you have Darnell Washington flying up the boards to go in the first. You have Sam Laporta looking like a smooth route runner and you're not out there again. It's just something that doesn't feel good when that's your biggest question mark as a
Yeah.
tight end out there. Um, but that's kind of what I got out of the tight ends as a whole. There was some, and there was another guy out of Old Dominion that just went nuts athletically, but still, like kudos to him. But also renewable kind of reinforcing biggest winner for this day on Saturday was Ryan Poles. Just that
Mm.
number 1 pick skyrocketed. Quarterbacks played well, and I hope they have great pro days. But PayPal, we got the last one. And hey, you
Mhm.
know what? We didn't do a show on Thursday, so you better believe this is going over an hour.
Yeah.
We're already at an hour. We have a lot to go through. We are going to finish this up with the Sunday today that we're recording it. Running back, offensive lineman, PayPal, the offensive lineman, they really kind of started it out there.
Mhm.
Anybody big kind of like stand out to you? Like, no pun intended,
And
actually.
anyone big and just absolutely massive and still can run pretty fast and looks still, his feet aren't really that big of a question to me, personally. Not the quickest feet in the world, but DeJuan Jones, I love him. I always love the picture that you have for him too. He
Yeah, he's a little
looks like a fun guy. He's
listening.
like, "You'll
Yeah.
hear you." But yeah, DeJuan Jones just it we were waiting for the time to just see him, match up against all these other offensive linemen and just see how massive this guy is. And it was just hysterical, honestly, saying it. Um, but still love him. He is quick. That was the big thing of like, is his feet kind of, does he get under them? And he was looking really fluid, and not really fluid, but he was still looking pretty fluid for his size. And he stood out to me.
And I'm curious, everyone in the chat too, because we got a good chat going. I'm curious, like, who stood out today for all of you. Dewan Jones, I'm actually going to go on the flip side, not saying it was bad. Like, he ran
Mhm.
well. First off, I didn't realize how huge he was until they did the side by side with him and Mekhi Becton, because they
Yeah.
did the simulcam. And who's that tiny guy? Like, Dewan Jones is massive. Like, we forget just how massive he is, and you see him compared to everyone else, he's huge, but also you realize kind of how slow he is compared to everyone else too.
Yeah.
And when I
Yep.
saw him, it made me kind of get this moment of, okay, do we want him in this offensive line room? Because if we can fit him in, awesome. You got a wall with legs, right? That's what
Mhm.
Jason Peters looked like when we had him.
Yep.
That Dewan Jones is even bigger, right? He is huge. So to me, I just like, I don't know, like Dewan Jones is very, very interesting to me. Like it just was
Yeah.
like a little red flag, not saying like bad, but it was something that just kind of like hit me like, ah,
Yeah, like,
he's a little slow.
this is
Yeah, this
why
is
he's
why.
in the second round, or, this is why he's not, like, a first, top 5 or top 10 or something that everyone's like, "This guy is it."
Yeah.
He
If
still has that speed, kinda lateral quickness.
yeah, if we want that speed, then he's probably not a good fit because we saw
Mhm.
that with Braxton Jones, size, speed, athleticism, and he's got the size, but the whole speed, he's got too much size. He's got too much
Yeah.
size at that tackle. Um, Someone that I also thought was impressive was Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. This is someone that can play the left tackle, was playing a little bit of right tackle. Really kind of surprised me with his athleticism. When you watch him, though, this is just a critique. It always sounds so weird saying this. He needs like a thicker base. He needs bigger legs, I felt, but
Mm.
still very athletic. It was very impressive. Someone else who really kind of stuck out, Skaronski, Peter Skaronski. Just when we talk about someone who just looks fluid at the position, Skaronski really, really stood out to me as like just kind of solidifying he's going to be a good NFL player. It's
Mhm.
just when do you want to draft him? He's got shorter arms. He lined up with shorter arms. People get afraid by that. But how early do you draft someone who looks to be a sure thing in this NFL draft at the line? Any
Yeah.
other linemen that really kind of stick out to you though?
Yeah, I like Cody Mauch. He was he was one of those guys that also he just
Yeah.
kinda sticks out to you, you know? He's got the long flowy hair, he's fun.
Two
He's the
missing
guy
teeth,
yeah,
plays the
missing teeth.
fiddle. Yeah.
Yeah, all he does the Napoleon Dynamite dance where, where he had that like he did that when he was in middle school, high school, or whatever. Um but yeah, and he was like ex tight end. Now he's offensive lineman, like whatever, walk on. So he was good, and that was someone where he's from a smaller school, so you kind of have questions of like, is he kind of gonna have like that same speed and like size as everyone else? But he definitely fit in with the crowd and looked good. He was one of those guys that looked fluid too. And I mean, when you compare, yeah, the Dewan Jones and like someone like him, or they have those quicker feet, and you really notice in that mirror drill where that mirror drill bad. I know we were talking about. We're so mad that they changed it and they don't have like a guy running side to side. It was funny watching the guy run side to side too, just because he was always exhausted
Yeah,
at the
the
end.
little rabbit. They don't have that. They also my favorite drill that they did was when they had another offensive lineman just sprint around like the hoop essentially and just like run, and then they had to kind of
Yeah.
like mirror him down, and it kind of showed the pass blocking. And I always like that just because you saw how quick their feet were. But yeah, they did do that. And I'll call out a couple other people too. I thought Darnell Wright, like some people that I felt were like kind of okay. Darnell Wright out of offensive tackle, Tennessee, I thought was decent. Broderick Jones had some ups and downs. Osiris Torrance, he's all about power, so he didn't look great, right? He didn't look
Mm.
great because that's not his game. But John Michael Schmitz, center out of Minnesota, I thought looked fluid. He looked like a football player, as stereotypical as that statement is. John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota looked good, looked solid, and that's what you want to see out there at that center position. So, and Paris Johnson too, I thought was a good Paris Johnson Jr. Tackle out of Ohio State. I thought you see just the body type, like
Mhm.
he's got the body type for the tackle that you want to see out there. But anybody else kind of stick out?
Yeah, no, not really. I definitely the running backs were like O-line, like I feel like you're always the specialist, but like they're fun to watch at a certain point, but then you're always it's just kind of funny too watching these guys. Like I remember and I know our sister kind of came in the room while we were watching it, and
Yeah.
she's like, "What the heck are they? Is this? What are they doing here?" you know,
She was laughing. You're like, get out of here. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's football. It's not, I know they're in their underwear and they're making them run,
Yeah.
but it's not funny.
Yeah. It's like we're watching them do drills. Okay. Like, and the thing about the line too is there's so many people that just stick out. And Renewable reminded me of someone he called out Gaines. John Gaines, the second out of UCLA, looked very fluid, looked very good. Yeah, 6'4" out of Wauwatosa. I did not know that. He's out of Tosa
Oh,
in
wow.
Wisconsin. Yeah, did not know, but yeah, 6'4". He looked very fluid. I really liked him. City So out of Eastern Michigan looked very athletic, I thought. 6'5", 323. And then even there was one guy who was small. He's got to be small. I got to look this up. Um, but yeah, like Jonathan Gwynn, he looked South Carolina. I thought he looked very athletic, but yeah, he's 6'2", 297. So very
Okay.
small at the interior guard spots. Crazy to see just how big everybody is. I saw some
Oh, yeah.
people like Skaronski's small and he's 6'4" or like 6'4". And someone
It's
else like lined
nuts.
up at 6'5", and that's considered small for the tackle position now.
That's
But
hilarious.
but yeah, so also last little person I'll kind of plug. I thought Ricky Stromberg, center out of Arkansas, um, I thought he looked good, right? I don't know what his testing was, but I thought he looked fluid out there at the center position. Um, let's go to running backs. This is the sexy spot. Running
Mhm.
backs, we might need a running back. Tony Pollard just got franchise tagged, and there's going to be a handful of other running backs. Maybe Saquon gets tagged. So running back, is there anybody that kind of jumped out to you?
Yeah, and this one was kinda fun for me because I did, I felt like your wife where, like, I didn't really look at anyone, so, like, I was
Yeah,
like a
I'm
empty plate.
fascinated with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was kinda fun, and one of them, I sadly knew this guy's name, just from you talking about him, but Tajay Sharp, like,
You
he
like
is he's fun to watch. I really like him, and, like, you definitely see his speed and just kinda his swagger and everything, like, he was really fun to watch.
Tajay
Um
Spears? I was like, Tajay Sharp. Oh yeah,
oh,
yeah,
Tajay Spears.
Tajay Spears. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tulane.
I wrote
Yep.
Tajay Sharp. Yeah, Tajay Spears. Yeah, he was fun, and, I always liked seeing him. I'm like, "Okay, he's actually supposed to be a pretty late draft pick." Um, and I don't know if you have anything to add on him, but, like, Evan Hull was kinda someone that
You
just
liked him
stood
too? Yeah.
Evan Hull was just kind of fun where you see, like, he ran in the end zone every single time for like some people that didn't watch it, but he would run in the end zone every single time, whether it was like the 40 or one of the drills, and that just says something a lot about his character and his like determination and how he just never quits. Like I saw one of the running backs where one of the footballs was a little outstretched for him, and he just gave up on the ball. And that's something that's like that speaks a lot of like if something happens, they just kind of quit. And
Mm.
when you have someone that's running into the end zone every single time, running still full speed, like that checks a lot of boxes of like the character for me.
Okay. I want you to just keep going, like, just because since you haven't watched a lot of these running backs, I'm just fascinated. I don't want you to be filtered out by who I like.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Another one, and I was surprised. I literally just checked to kind of see how far this guy was down. I really like Chase Brown, the guy out of Illinois. He was one of those guys during the 40. He
Did
didn't
look
have the
good. Yeah.
fastest 40, but he was a pretty heavy set guy, but he ran with that power that I was kind of talking about earlier, where it's like he doesn't run quick, he runs like physically.
Yeah.
So I liked kind of just his like high motor it seemed like he kind of had. Um and that was a good one on my list.
He did look good, and he had a bad Senior Bowl week. Like, people were saying, "This guy does not
Really?
look good. He does not look athletic. He does not find the hole." And yeah, this is Underwear Olympics for the 10th time today that we've said that term, but still, yeah, the athleticism really did pop. And I'm glad that it did because his brother, who plays safety, he showed his athleticism. And you're like, you guys are cut from the same cloth, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
you guys should be similar athletes
Yeah.
to some extent.
A and yeah, Brad, I have one more, and this one, I think he was the person that was in, like, all the commercials too, Deuce Vaughn.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where he's supposed to get drafted, but he was someone it's like, if you're talking about, like, where height doesn't matter, it's the running back spot, and sometimes it honestly might help you, just because 'cause you're low center of gravity. He was he was really fun to watch, and, like, you could tell everyone else was, like, either knew him or, like, really were, like, hyping him up when he was doing well. Like, he was getting
Yeah.
along with everyone around him, which was something I noticed, and you just kinda like having that high character guy.
Yeah, and he was the face of No Bull, which I looked up.
Yeah.
They're like, they never said what No Bull was.
Yeah, like, workout equipment and
Yeah, and
shoes and stuff.
Jesus Christ, they're expensive. I don't know if that's the going rate for workout equipment, but I still have like the same crappy shoes that I've used forever. And
Yeah, the Asics.
yeah, like for real, like they're insanely expensive. Not a sponsor. But yeah, Deuce Vaughn, he's someone that's always fascinating. He was also shorter than expected. He's 5'5" on the dot. Not like 5'5" and a quarter, 5'5" and 3/4, 5'5" on the dot, like a quarter inch away from being 5'4". So very, very short, but very explosive, very fun to watch, very quick. And yeah, he definitely showed it. I'm glad that he didn't run the 40 time because you could see people pinning that against him. Like, if he ran
Mhm.
a 4.5, that's a good 40 for a running back. But people would see that and be like, well, he's not as fast as these other guys. So
Yeah.
I get what he did. He looked good, looked fluid, and yeah, it could be a good late round pick. They just pick up. That's where, if you get the slew of draft picks, we were talking about this when we were watching it. If the Bears could get a slew of draft picks, then why not? Why not take a flyer
Mhm.
on Tank Dell? Why not take a flyer on Deuce Vaughn, right? And like that's what's exciting. And if you get more picks, you get better players. Art in the comments is saying, hey, if we trade back, you could get Skoronski as a Cody Whitehair replacement. That sounds good,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, Renewable saying, how do you tackle someone that small and not have helmet to helmet contact? Yeah, and Deuce was saying too, he's like, I hide behind the line. And that's what we saw
Yeah.
Tariq doing. He's smaller than Tariq. Like, just think about that. He's smaller than Tariq. Tariq is big compared to him.
Oh, and
But
that's where I think of it's the one position where the smaller you are is kind of an advantage. Like, it is probably such a pain in the butt to tackle that guy.
yeah,
And he's thick too. Like, he's a lot thicker than Tariq Cohen was.
yeah. And so my biggest loser for this, and I'll go through the other winners because there's some people out there. I thought Eric Gray out of Oklahoma had just a bad day.
Mhm.
And he can break tackles. He's out of Oklahoma. Like, that's when someone's in front of him, that's where he breaks tackles. I just thought he looked a little sloppy out there. So just didn't have the best workout today. Um, and then also just kind of continuing through, the biggest loser is all the people that measured running backs during the season. Because I felt, let me explain myself. Every running back seemed to be 6'2" before the draft. And then you look at it, it's like Charbonnet's not 6'2", Bijan's not 6'2", Roshan Johnson wasn't 6'2". Like, all these people that were supposed to be so much taller were like 2-3 inches shorter. I don't know who measured the running backs in the NCAA, but everyone else was at least like close to their height or taller than their height. Running backs throw away whatever they measured them in college. It wasn't close. So whoever did that, you failed. But, but I will say Bijan lived up to the hype. I saw some Bears people out there that are like, Bears are going to draft Bijan in the second round. No, they're not. He's going in the first. Like he is that guy. He does everything well. Jahmyr Gibbs he looked really good from out of Alabama. He showed some of that speed, but I got to give it to Devon Achane out of Texas A&M. This was where, like, we knew he was going to go crazy. This guy was a sprinter, ran like a 4.32 in the 40, blazing fast, and every time he ran routes. As an offensive coordinator, you look at that and you go, we can have that speed running out of the backfield. We can have that speed on a Texas route, on a wheel route. It really gets you thinking because he's got game-changing speed, and he really put it on full display out here. And let me see what he actually weighed in at, because that was the big question. 188, so light at that position, but still looked very fast. Zach Charbonnet, I still think, like, you saw him freaking jacked. It looked like on the sidelines like he did push-ups just to make himself look jacked, because like dude was yoked. And but yeah, I had Tyjae Spears looked good. Roschon Johnson was up and down out of Texas. But yeah, there's a lot of good running backs out there, and that's where the Bears can definitely draft some people.
And the hard thing, Brad, too, like, I mean, we're talking about all this like negative things, positive things of these people, but it still just comes down to like how they actually produced and like,
can they
actually how they look out on tape. This was kind of that like icing on the cake, or like that extra, if you had a little bit of a question of his speed or whatever, this kind of answers that. Or like if their character, this is kind of what answers it,
There is one guy though that I really need I didn't have on my list, and I saw his name and I go, yes, this guy impressed me. 6 foot 216, Deneric Prince out of Tulsa. He's a redshirt senior and ran a 4.4 140 time, and just athletically impressed me. He looked different running the football. That's why I want to see, what does he look like with pads on. I did not watch his tape at all, but he's someone that I'm gonna watch again. I thought he looked good. He looked like aggressive, but what does he look like with pads during a game? He turned my head. He definitely turned my head, and really was someone that I wanted to watch out there. So, man, this is a long episode. This is a good episode. Brad. A lot of stuff that, like we said, we needed to give you guys something. So apologies that we weren't able to record on Thursday. Like I said, had to be at the hospital. So we then really couldn't find another time to go through it, but glad we could break it down totally. But this week, we're going through free agency. We got free agents on Thursday. We're going to be breaking down. On Sunday, we're going to be breaking down. Make sure to like and subscribe, because we got to be breaking it all out there for you. And also, if you want to listen to the podcast, you can download it. Just open up anywhere that you get your podcast. Look for Unbearable Sports. If you rate it a 5-star, you're our best friend. Thank you all so much. But also, I know that we saw some love out in the comments. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. It makes it fun for us to record these shows. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad